What happens when two powerhouse women in entertainment clash over something deeply personal? What we witnessed between Trisha Yearwood and Kelly Clarkson was unlike anything we've ever seen on daytime television. The tension was so thick you could cut it with a knife, and by the end, one of country music's biggest stars was walking off stage in front of millions of viewers. But before you hear what really went down, make sure to hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below, because this story will leave you speechless. The Kelly Clarkson Show was supposed to be a routine promotional appearance for Trisha Yearwood. She was there to talk about her latest cookbook, share some heartwarming stories about life with Garth Brooks, and maybe sing a little something for the audience. Kelly had done her homework, as always, preparing questions that would showcase Trisha's warmth and relatability. The studio audience was buzzing with excitement, phones ready to capture what they expected would be another delightful celebrity interview. But from the moment Trisha walked onto that stage, something felt different. Her usual radiant smile seemed forced, her posture was stiff, and there was a guardedness in her eyes that Kelly immediately picked up on. The first few minutes went smoothly enough, with Kelly gushing about Trisha's new recipes and asking about her inspiration for combining Southern comfort food with healthier alternatives. "You know, Kelly, cooking has always been my therapy," Trisha said, her voice carrying a slight edge that most viewers probably missed. "When life gets complicated, when people start making assumptions about your personal life, the kitchen is where I find my peace." Kelly's eyebrows raised slightly at the unexpected turn. This wasn't the direction their pre-interview conversation had suggested they'd go. "That's beautiful, Trisha. And speaking of your personal life, I have to say, you and Garth seem more in love than ever. What's the secret to keeping that spark alive after all these years?" The question hung in the air for a moment longer than it should have. Trisha's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly, and when she spoke, her words were measured and deliberate. "Well, Kelly, I think the real secret is respecting boundaries. Understanding that some things should remain private, especially when you're in the public eye." Kelly felt the shift immediately. The warm, conversational tone they'd established was evaporating, replaced by something much more charged. She glanced at her producers off-camera, who looked equally puzzled by the sudden tension. "Of course, privacy is so important, Kelly," agreed, trying to steer back to safer ground. "But your fans love seeing glimpses of your life together. The social media posts, the way you support each other's careers, it's really inspiring." Trisha leaned forward slightly, her voice dropping to a more serious tone. "You know what's not inspiring, Kelly? When talk show hosts start spreading rumors about people's marriages based on nothing but gossip and speculation. When they take a simple photo or a casual comment and turn it into some dramatic narrative for their viewers' entertainment." The studio fell silent. Kelly blinked, clearly caught off guard by the accusation. "I'm sorry, Trisha. I'm not sure I understand what you're referring to." "Oh, I think you understand perfectly," Trisha replied, her southern drawl becoming more pronounced as her emotions rose. "Last month, on this very show, you spent 10 minutes dissecting a photo of me and Garth at a restaurant. You questioned why we were sitting across from each other instead of next to each other. You wondered aloud if there was trouble in paradise. All because we weren't holding hands in a single photograph." Kelly's face flushed as the memory came flooding back. She had indeed spent time analyzing celebrity photos with her audience, something that had become a regular segment on the show. But she hadn't realized how deeply it had affected the people she was talking about. "Trisha, that wasn't meant to be malicious. We were just having fun with celebrity spotting, and I certainly never intended to imply that there were problems in your marriage. Intent doesn't matter when the damage is done," Trisha shot back, her voice rising slightly. "Do you know what it's like to have your mother call you crying because she saw a talk show host suggesting that your marriage might be in trouble? Do you know what it's like to have your stepchildren worry that their family is falling apart? Because some television personality decided to turn your private dinner into public speculation." The audience was completely silent now, sensing that they were witnessing something far more raw and real than the typical celebrity interview. Kelly's usually quick wit seemed to have abandoned her as she struggled to find the right words. "Trisha, I am so sorry. I had no idea that segment had caused you and your family such pain. That was never my intention." But Trisha wasn't finished. The floodgates had opened, and years of frustration with media speculation were pouring out. "Your intention doesn't erase the hurt, Kelly, and it's not just you. It's this whole culture of treating people's lives like entertainment, of thinking that, because we're public figures, every aspect of our existence is fair game for commentary and analysis. Kelly tried to regain control of the interview, her voice becoming more professional and measured. You're absolutely right, and I want to use this as a learning moment. How do we, as people in the media, do better? How do we respect those boundaries? While still connecting with our audiences, for a moment, it seemed like Trisha might soften, might accept the olive branch Kelly was extending. But then something shifted in her expression, and her next words cut through the studio like a blade. You want to know how to do better, Kelly? Stop pretending you care about boundaries when your entire career is built on crossing them. The words hung in the air like a thunderclap. Kelly's face went pale, and you could practically hear a pin drop in the studio. The audience shifted uncomfortably in their seats, suddenly aware they were witnessing something that felt more like a personal confrontation than a television interview. Kelly's voice was barely above a whisper when she responded. Trisha, I think that's unfair. I've always tried to be respectful in how I approach these topics. Trisha let out a bitter laugh that sent chills through everyone watching. Kelly, do you remember when you had that segment about celebrity couples who might be headed for divorce? You put a picture of me and Garth right up there on the screen, along with your speculation about whether we were having problems because he'd been touring without me. That was taken completely out of context, Kelly protested, her own defenses rising. We were discussing how difficult it is for couples to maintain relationships in the entertainment industry. It wasn't personal. Everything is personal when you're talking about real people's lives. Trisha's voice cracked with emotion. You sat there with your panel of experts, dissecting my marriage like it was some kind of case study. About body language and analyzed photos like you were some kind of relationship detective. Meanwhile, I'm at home watching my husband's face as he sees people questioning our love for each other on national television. Kelly tried to interrupt, but Trisha wasn't having it. The country star was on a roll now, pouring out in front of the cameras, and it's not just the marriage speculation. Kelly, remember when you spent an entire segment talking about my weight? You had your nutritionist on, and you used my red carpet photos as examples of how women in their 50s can struggle with body image. You'd never asked my permission. You never considered how that might make me feel to have my body analyzed and critiqued on national television. The audience was completely transfixed now. This wasn't entertainment anymore. This was raw, unfiltered emotion from two women who had reached a breaking point. Kelly's usual composure was cracking under the weight of Trisha's accusations. Trisha, I understand you're upset, and I hear what you're saying, but I think you're misremembering some of these segments. We've always tried to approach these topics with sensitivity. Sensitivity, Trisha's voice rose. Another octave. You want to talk about sensitivity? How about when you had that cooking segment where you tried to recreate one of my recipes? But you kept making jokes about how it was probably too fattening for your audience. How you suggested that maybe I should consider healthier alternatives because, and I quote, some of us aren't as naturally blessed with good genetics as others. Kelly's mouth fell open. She clearly remembered the segment, and the realization of how her words must have sounded was hitting her like a freight train. Trisha, that comment was about me, not you. I was making fun of my own struggles with weight and diet. Were you, Kelly? Because sitting at home watching it, it felt like you were using my recipes as an excuse to talk about weight and appearance. Again, it felt like everything I create, everything I put out into the world, gets filtered through this lens of judgment about my body, my marriage, my personal choices. The tension in the studio was suffocating now. Camera operators were getting tighter shots, sensing that television history was being made. Kelly's producers were frantically trying to figure out how to handle the situation. But both women seemed completely focused on each other, oblivious to the chaos around them. Kelly took a deep breath, trying to center herself. Trisha, I can see that I've hurt you, and that was never my intention. But I have to ask, why didn't you reach out to me privately about this? Why are we having this conversation on live television? Trisha's laugh was sharp and humorless. Oh, I did reach out, Kelly, 3 times. I called your production office after that marriage speculation segment. I sent a personal email after the weight comments. I even had my publicist contact your People, after you spent 20 minutes analyzing my outfit choices and suggesting I might want to update my style for my age. Kelly looked genuinely shocked. I never received any of those messages. Maybe you didn't personally, but your people did. And every time I was told the same thing. Well, I'm here to tell you that it doesn't have to work this way. The country singer leaned forward, her eyes blazing. With intensity, you have a platform, Kelly. You have influence. When you make casual comments about people's lives, when you treat real human beings like characters in some ongoing soap opera, there are consequences. Real consequences for real people. Being who is beginning to understand the impact of her words. Trisha, I want to make this right. Tell me how to make this right. You want to make it right. Trisha stood up from her chair, her voice trembling with emotion. Stop treating people's pain like content. Stop turning personal struggles into talking points. Stop pretending that because someone is famous, they stop being human. The studio was dead silent, except for the hum of cameras and equipment. Kelly remained seated, looking up at Trisha with a mixture of remorse and confusion. Please, don't leave like this. Let's work through this together. But Trisha was already removing her microphone, her hands shaking slightly as she fumbled with the wire. I've spent 20 years in this business being polite, being accommodating, being the good guest who laughs at the jokes and plays along with the games. But I'm done pretending that this is okay. She looked directly into the camera, addressing the audience at home, to everyone watching. Remember that the people you see on television are real human beings with real feelings. We're not characters in your favorite show. We're mothers, wives, daughters, and we deserve the same basic respect you'd want for your own family. Kelly made one last desperate attempt to salvage the situation. Trisha, please sit back down. We can use this as an opportunity to have a real conversation about media responsibility and how we can all do better. Trisha paused at the edge of the stage, turning back to face Kelly one final time. Her voice was quieter now, but somehow more powerful than when she'd been shouting. Kelly, I want you to understand something, Trisha said, her voice carrying a weight that seemed to fill every corner of the studio. This isn't about being mean or vindictive. This is about being heard. For years, I've watched you and other hosts turn people's lives into entertainment, and I stayed quiet because I thought that was just part of the business. But silence makes you complicit. Kelly's eyes were beginning to well up with tears, the full impact of Trisha's words finally sinking in. Trisha, I never wanted to hurt anyone. Was just connecting with my audience, sharing observations about the world we all live in. But that's exactly the problem, Trisha replied, taking a step closer to Kelly's desk. You think you're just sharing observations, but you're shaping narratives. Just observing, you're influencing how millions of people think about that person. You're creating a story that didn't exist before you told it. The audience was completely captivated, many of them pulling out their phones not to record for social media, but because they sensed they were witnessing something historically significant in television history. Kelly wiped her eyes. With the back of her hand, her professional composure completely abandoned now. How do I fix this? How do we fix this industry? You start by acknowledging that what you do matters, Trisha said firmly. Every joke, every casual comment, every speculation, it all matters because real people are on the receiving end of it. Couples would feel watching that. Did you consider that some of them might be going through difficult times and your public analysis might make everything worse? Kelly's voice was barely audible. No, I didn't think about that. And that's the heart of the problem, Kelly. The industry has trained all of us to stop thinking about the human costs of entertainment. We've created this world where anything goes as long as it gets ratings or clicks or engagement. But behind every story, every photo, every piece of gossip, there's a real person trying to live their life. Trisha moved closer to the edge of the stage, her voice growing stronger with each word. Do you know what it's like to have your appearance critiqued by people who have never met you? Do you know what it's like to have your every public moment dissected for signs of trouble or drama? No, I don't, Kelly admitted, her voice breaking slightly. Well, I do. And I'm here to tell you that it's exhausting. Content out of people's pain. When you turn real struggles into talking points, you're not just entertaining your audience. You're teaching them that it's okay to treat other human beings as objects for their amusement. You're absolutely right, and I'm ashamed that it took you walking onto my stage and telling me this for me to really understand it. But what do I do with that shame? How do I move forward? For a moment, Trisha's expression softened slightly. You use your platform differently, Kelly. You remember that the people you talk about are watching. You ask yourself before every segment, before every comment, would I want someone to say this about me or someone I love? And if the answer is no, then you don't say it. The studio was so quiet that the sound of the air conditioning seemed loud. Everyone present knew they were witnessing a pivotal moment. I want to be better, Kelly said, her voice thick with emotion. I want to use my show to lift people up, not tear them down. Will you help me? Will you come back and help me figure out how to do this right? Trisha shook her head slowly, a sad smile crossing her face. Kelly, I can't fix this for you. You have to examine your own content, your own choices, your own impact. You have to decide what kind of host you want to be and what kind of show you want to have. She paused, looking out at the audience one more time. But I will say this. Change is possible. Redemption is possible. But it has to start with genuine acknowledgement of the harm that's been done and a real commitment to doing better. Kelly nodded, tears now flowing freely down her cheeks. I hear you. I really hear you. And I promise you, and I promise everyone watching that I'm going to do the work to be better. Trisha began walking toward the exit, then stopped one final time, because this industry has the power to bring so much joy and connection to people's lives. But we have to remember that with that power comes responsibility, a stunned audience, a tearful host, and a television moment that would be talked about for years to come. The cameras kept rolling as Kelly stood there, processing what had just happened, knowing that her show and her approach to celebrity culture would never be the same. The raw emotion, the unfiltered truth, and the courage it took for Trisha to speak her mind created a moment of television that transcended entertainment and became something much more profound. It was a wake-up call for an entire industry, delivered by a woman who had finally decided that staying silent was no longer an option. So what do you think? Was Trisha right to call out Kelly so publicly? Or should she have handled this differently? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and make sure to subscribe for more stories that reveal what really happens behind the scenes in Hollywood. The conversation about media responsibility and celebrity treatment is far from over, and your voice matters in shaping how we move forward.